The Duval Rundown, driven by Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, home of the lifetime warranty.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Duval Rundown. Amazingly, we're covering a playoff run here. We're worrying about letdown games. Can you believe it? Welcome in. Hayes Carline here. Pleased to be joined, as always, on Wednesday with Ryan O'Halloran, sports columnist of the Florida Times-Union. You can find him on Twitter at Ryan O'Halloran and watch his or view his work at Jacksonville.com. Ryan, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, Hayes, and I think you hit the key word is letdown. Big win over the Colts. A Jet team coming in here who's not very good. We covered a lot of these games as beat writers from the opposite, where we were.
Spoiler.
Yeah, so the reason I think this team is going to come out focused is they know that Houston's on their heels, and they want to. The Jags want a home playoff game. You got to keep winning. They know what's coming up next at Denver, so I expect them to really be locked in this week.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's a couple other things that Liam Cohen can use to try to help avoid a letdown. One is put on the tape of Tampa Bay, New Orleans on Sunday. I mean, Tampa Bay loses to a Saints team at home, by the way, that had only won 2 games. They lose 24-20, and what could end up being a devastating loss that moved the Bucs into a tie with Carolina at 7-6 atop the NFC South. So you point out that game. Look, this can happen. The other thing with the Jets is, they're 3-10, but they're 3-3 in their last 6. So their recent form has been pretty good. I'm not trying to say they've beaten any teams of real consequence, but it's not like this team isn't doing anything well. Any team that's won, 3 of their last 6 games at this point in the year, they're dangerous.
Yeah, they are. And, they looked like they had been improving until last week, and they just got blown out by Miami, but they just got major quarterback issues. They gave up on Fields probably too late. Now he's a little dinged up. Tyrod Taylor started, got hurt, and then they went to Brady Cook. So, the Jags may have to be preparing for 3 different quarterbacks this week. But you're right. And that's the thing that pops out is they beat Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Atlanta. Well, hey, those are still wins in this league. You went on the road to Cincinnati and beat them. So I think the Jets have gotten better. They're in a tear it down mode. They traded Sauce Gardner. They traded Quentin Williams. Garrett Wilson, the star receiver, is not playing. They got quarterback issues. So I think they'll come down here and say, hey, they'll play hard. But to me, this is all about the Jags. If they stop the run and run it, they'll get out of here with a win. Maybe they'll even cover that 11.5, 12.5 point spread, which has gone up in recent days.
Yeah, and from a lot of the matchup standpoints, it would lead you to believe that this should be, a fairly comfortable win for the Jaguars. When you look at, there's a couple of things that really pop when you look at the Jets. They don't have an interception this year. Like, how is that possible? Like, how in the world? I think they've seen 379 passing attempts this year. They don't have an interception. Now, part of that makes you worried that, well, when they get the first one, they're probably going to get 3 right on top of it because they're so due. Even a bad defense, so due. They've only gotten 2 takeaways all year. Last year, the Jaguars were pitiful in that, and they got 9. So there's that. And then the Jets' run defense is atrocious as well. They're 30th in the league defending the run, giving up 139.5 yards a game, which obviously goes right into what Liam Cohen and the Jaguars want to do.
I'll hit you a couple of stats on that turnover stuff since I jumped into the Pro Football Reference rabbit hole. They have 0 interceptions through 13 games. That's the first time since at least 1932.
Wow.
They have 2 takeaways in their first 13 games. San Francisco in 2018 had 5. Pro Football Reference lists 47 teams with no takeaways through 13 games. 12 of those were from 1920 to 1932, where I don't think they even have those in the box score. So this is his historically inept team at taking the ball away. And you're right about the interception stuff. There hasn't been a tip. There hasn't been a bad call where a guy pass interfered the receiver and caught it and they missed the flag.
Right.
Yeah. One question for Liam Cohen is going to be, hey, do you wish they would have intercepted a couple last week? Because they are due. They are due. So the one thing they do is they're seventh in rushing offense, which is surprising to me because they're usually in chase the game mode. But I think some of that has to do with Fields being able to gain some yards. But Breece Hall is a hell of a back. He's going to be a free agent after the season. If I'm him, I'm counting the days to go.
Yeah.
I think Kansas City would be perfect. They should have traded for him at the deadline. But so that's your main cog right there. But
well, you bring up a great point on Fields. If he doesn't play, and again, they went away from him. Now we don't really know what the injury. I mean, it's hard to figure out. And obviously, Aaron Glenn, that's about the only card he can play is to not reveal who it's going to be. He's been coy about stuff like that all year long with the media. But in terms of the Jets being seventh rushing offense in the league, Fields has 388 yards of that. So if Fields isn't out there, then I think they lose a pretty big chunk of that, potency. But to your point about Breece Hall, I mean, he's 877 yards on the ground, 4.4 yards a carry, only 3 touchdowns. And he's pretty good out of the backfield, 304 yards as a receiver. So he is somebody that, Liam Cohen talks about, game wreckers. You got to think for the Jets offense. And again, we don't know about Garrett Wilson. He's on IR, I think. Now, I'm sure he could come back if they wanted him to, if he's able to, because it feels like he's been on IR for a long time now. But assuming they don't have Garrett Wilson, it's pretty much Breece Hall and not much else.
Yeah, 50. They clinched their 15th consecutive year out of the playoffs with their loss to Miami, longest current streak in major professional sports. They've been trailing in games, yet they're last in passing. I mean, that just says everything. I mean, there are no empty calorie yards. I mean, we covered bad Jaguar teams that would just chuck it around the yard and prevent in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if
they set franchise records doing that. Bortles and Allen Robinson.
Yep. And then Hearns also got 1,000 that year. So they had 2,000-yard receivers. In terms of this Jaguar team I think they have narrowed down the offense a little bit and just sort of, hey, this is our meat and potato stuff. This is what we're going to run. And I think Liam Cohen has sort of cleared up the cloudy picture for Trevor Lawrence. And that's what I'm going to be looking for is, okay, can Lawrence take another step against the team he should be able to dissect or take advantage of? Can they get Brian Thomas going, keep him going after the game the other day where he had 3 very good catches, including a one-handed catch down the sideline? And so one thing, if I'm the Jaguars, if I'm Liam Cohen, and he mentioned it on Monday, I think they got to get this run game going a little bit. They've had a lot of bad runs, which is 1 or fewer yards. And, you can stack the box, but I think you have to block that up better. Especially on the perimeter. So I think that would be a focus point for the Jags this week.
Yeah, I was surprised they've dipped all the way down to 15th now running the ball, which means they're basically average at it. It feels like it's been more effective than that, but that's certainly that number should improve. Like we said, they're going against a Jets defense that's 30th against the run. Let's talk a little bit about the Colts win 36-19 over Indianapolis. And you hit on a couple of things there, but what'd you think of Trevor's performance and what'd you think of Brian Thomas Jr.'s performance?
Start with Thomas. When you don't play, maybe the wake-up call is delivered that way. And granted, he was nursing the high ankle, but I think he saw that, hey, when I come back, I got to be able to hold on to the ball because they'll start throwing it to Myers. They'll throw it to Strange. They'll throw it to Patrick, they'll throw it to Parker Washington. So I think it was a big moment for Brian Thomas against the Colts. And really what they just have him doing now is just run straight down the field. And, the 16-yarder was sort of a deeper crossing route. I think that's what they got to do with him because we saw what happens on the slants and the shallow crosses earlier this year. It just wasn't working. I think a big thing with Trevor Lawrence is he's got to trust where you're going to be. And that's where Myers has that with Patrick, Strange. So now Thomas has to earn that. I think it was a step in the right direction. As for Lawrence, was it 18 of 31? I think he was
17 of 30.
17 of 31, which you recall the game as like, okay, 14 incompletions. That seems a little high. So
yeah, it was 13.
Yeah. So I thought he was. I mean, sometimes as a quarterback, you got to hit rock bottom. I think the four turnover game against Arizona was rock bottom. They would have beat Arizona by 2 touchdowns if he hadn't turned it over. So I'm sure they went back to the lab, drilled down and say, hey, Liam Cohen, Grant Udinski, Spencer Whipple, say, okay, what does this guy do well right now? Let's put him in position, even though it may be out of our character with what the system presents. So, I think for Lawrence, another chance to now stack 3 good games together. And I think that will be key because then you got a Broncos defense that historically good pass rush coming up next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say hello to Jacob Simons. Jacob is our engineer extraordinaire on Duval Rundown. Jacob, let's say hello to our sponsor, please.
This is Rick Ballou, Jacksonville Chrysler, Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Drive with confidence. Every new vehicle comes with our exclusive lifetime warranty. Visit us at 7030 Commonwealth Avenue or online at jackswest.com today.
It's interesting. It still doesn't really feel like this team has an identity is maybe too strong because they're certainly a tough, mature team. But in terms of what they do well, the run defense is just unbelievable. And maybe that it's time for that to become the calling card publicly of this Jaguars team. Again, they go up against Jonathan Taylor. Now, obviously, the Colts lose Daniel Jones, a quarter through the game with the Achilles, and that was going to certainly cripple their passing game. But the Jaguars hold Jonathan Taylor to 74 yards on the ground, just 3.5 yards a carry. He was averaging 5.7 yards a carry entering the contest. And the Jaguars are first in the NFL in run defense, giving up just under 83 yards a game. Ryan, I guess that's got to be when you think of the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2025, the numbers tell you it's got to start there. The calling card for this team is no one runs on them.
Yeah, and the statistics bear that out, and I'm glad you pointed out Taylor's per carry average. His longest run was 14 yards. That was the fourth quarter. So that means when you have that kind of ranking, that means you're not giving up explosive runs, 12 or more yards.
What's even the longest run they've given up all year? Like, can you think of it?
To get my binder.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think.
33 yards.
33.
Yeah. So right now they are
that's very respectable for having played, as many games. When you're 13 games into your season and your longest run you've allowed is 33 yards.
So
pretty impressive.
3.9 yard average. I think you mentioned the term calling card. This is not going to be a great pass rush team. They had 1 sack against Indianapolis. Right now it's going to be we're going to stop you on first down. We're going to stop you on second down. We're going to force you to throw on third down where you can simulate your pressure, rush 4 from different spots, play sticky coverage, and make you punt the ball. Offensively, I agree with your point. I don't know. This is not a criticism. I don't know where they hang their hat on. Is it Lawrence to Myers? Maybe. Is it Etienne, who's nearing 1,000 yards? Possibly. But that's probably also a good thing is that you can't identify just one thing. But yeah, you're right on the defense. Is Devon Hamilton's playing good football? Eric Armstead is making a difference. And also the edge guys are playing well against the run. I'd like to see, to me, Trayvon Walker having to get somewhat healthy and get going as a pass rusher. I think that's going to be the key over the next 4 weeks because Josh Hines-Allen has hit his stride. Now it's time for Trayvon Walker to do his, even though he's not at top percent.
Yeah, your point about the offense is a good one. It does seem, though, to me that over the next month and then into the tournament, assuming they don't collapse, and that's what it's going to take now for the Jaguars not to compete in the postseason, is an utter collapse, losing to some really bad teams, including the Jets on Sunday. But it seems like from that passing game standpoint, they are finally starting to settle into the roles where, to your point, like Myers is the reliable move the chains. If he gives you something after the catch, which he did on the 50-yarder in Nashville, that's great. But more of a guy like he can keep the offense from getting in a rut. You know, if you feel like a rut's coming, you go to Jacoby Myers. He's going to make a catch, move the chains, and keep your offense going. Brian Thomas Jr., if he really has refound his game, and I agree with you, he's a better Robin than he is a Batman. You know, when it's clear that when the load is on him to deliver for the passing game, he's the primary guy. It's been a struggle with this staff for him to do that. But as a complementary piece and he got some favorable looks against Indianapolis, and to Trevor Lawrence's credit, they went right after it. When they saw a one-on-one with Brian Thomas Jr., they were sending him deep and taking the shot. But that's probably more his role is the deep threat. And you hope you hit some explosive, but 3 catches for 87 yards. I mean, you take that every game the rest of the season for Brian Thomas Jr., especially after what we saw in the first half. You've got Brenton Strange at tight end that's definitely settling into being that security blanket for Trevor Lawrence, reliable guy. And then hopefully they have Parker Washington back this week. And Parker Washington's had an outstanding season, a very tough, kind of all-purpose guy that can do a number of things for you as a receiver. So it's interesting because it now looks like they've given up on De'Ami Brown. Obviously, Travis Hunter's lost for the year. They went through a lot of fluctuation, but landing Myers at the deadline, the emergence of Washington, the reemergence of Thomas, and Strange getting healthy. None of those guys are maybe like superstars, obviously, but the 4 of them collectively makes a pretty good array of weapons.
It does, and a question that came up to me over the last couple of days was, would the Jaguars trade it for Jacoby Myers had Travis Hunter not gotten hurt? My answer is emphatically yes, because the sides had been talking before then, and also Thomas's slide was in peak form at that point, so
it was a 10 out of 10 on the panic meter.
Yeah, so they need to go get a guy. And you're right about Brown as a $10 million bust. Hunter, you forget he was even on the team on offense and defense. But you can't make fun of Travis. But that's the facts. But Myers is a guy on 3rd and 8. He's going to give you 11. Tim Patrick's a guy on 3rd and 5. He's going to give you 7. That kind of thing. So
Tim Patrick. I'm glad you mentioned him.
Yeah, they're professional receivers, and I'll bring up Patrick because he had a 26-yarder on the Jaguar side of the field against the Colts, the Jaguar sideline, where Lawrence was flushed out to his left, threw across his body. Tim Patrick had the awareness to follow his quarterback all the way because it's not something Trevor does a lot, and he threw a dart across his body. I thought it was best throw of the game. So, yeah. So the other thing about this offense real quick is if Walker Little is cleared from the concussion protocol, I tell him you're taking another week.
Yeah.
I'd stick with Van Lanen at left tackle.
Here's $5. Go see a movie.
Yeah. What movie theater is that?
Yeah. Sorry. Here's $25.
$25. But clean sheet for the pass protection, no sacks last week. So, what is really showing that this team has done a good job at is they did a good job building this roster in terms of depth options, and also, they got Tim Patrick after camp, they got Myers at the deadline, they had their backup O-line guys ready. So there's a lot to like here. Just wish that should they be scoring more points? I think so.
Yeah, and again, but even that number is starting to climb into a good territory. I mean, really, scoring offense is one of their better categories. They're 9th in the league at 25.2 points a game. So, again, when you factor in their 17th in total yards, they're 23rd on 3rd down.
That's got to get better.
Yeah, and that's been a problem all year long. But somehow they're ninth in scoring defense. Scoring offense. Obviously, the defense plays a role in that with all the takeaway short fields that the offense has been provided, and the special teams as well. They factor into that number. And as we know, they've done a great job in the return game with Parker Washington. So, but it is interesting that they're top 10 in scoring offense as a team. And maybe, we always think of that as an offensive number, and usually it is. But in this case, it's more like 80% offense, 20% defense, special teams. And you could maybe even make an argument that it's 70-30. But yeah, a lot of encouraging stuff. We've got to get down to the stadium for Liam Cohen's availability. So won't keep you any longer, Ryan, but just give us a thought. Do you think the Jaguars handle their business on Sunday against the Jets?
I do. I'll probably pick the Jags to cover that 11.5 or wherever it ends up. Maybe a
27-13.
Yeah, something like that. The Jets will hang around a little bit, and the Jaguars' objective to be okay, just step on their figurative throat early, and then Trevor, and I mentioned this in a story the other day, and you talked about it on the radio yesterday. Trevor Lawrence has not finished 3 of the last 4 wins by choice. Liam Cohen has said, we're blowing the other team out. Grab your hat, Trevor. So I think that happens again this week. So maybe a 31-13 game where Nick Mullins brings the team home with a couple kneel downs at the end.
That'd be great. Hopefully you're dead on with that prediction. Well, that's going to do it for us, Ryan. Always appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in about 40 minutes down at the stadium, and look forward to talking with you next Wednesday.
Right. Plug a couple columns for.
I'm sorry. Yes, please do.
Tomorrow's print edition, I asked 9 Jaguars last week, who's the most underrated player on the roster. 7 players got votes, so I do a player-by-player thing on that with my take.
That's cool.
Talked to Eric Murray the other day coming back from his neck injury, so that'll be later in the week. And also just a non-Jaguar thing. I was up at Rains High School yesterday. Talked to TJ Cole, the record-setting quarterback. Rains plays in the state title game this weekend down in Miami. Had a blast talking to this kid. So that'll be in Friday's print edition as well.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you reminding us about that, and we'll certainly look forward to reading it. Ryan's done an unbelievable job since he's been back as columnist, as you guys well know. Did you have another thing, Ryan?
Yeah. Are you gonna? Do you have McGarity on the radio today?
I don't know. I think he joins us on Thursday,
okay,
so it should be tomorrow with McGarity.
I look forward to see what he has to say about the ACC.
Yeah. What a mess. What a mess. And Missouri, Virginia, got to put on your selling shoes for that one. Anyway, we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for us. Hey, Ryan, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Again, Ryan O'Halloran, Jacksonville.com, and you can follow him at it's Ryan O'Halloran. I always ask you this. It's at Ryan O'Halloran, right?
That's right. It's at Hayes Carolina, right?
One day I'll figure all this out. But
since you pop up on my timeline for the last 15 years, you sort of forget what the
that's the thing. Exactly. But anyway, great insights, Ryan. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks for watching Duval Rundown. We'll be back on Friday with Rick Ballou. Until then, that's going to do it. Enjoy your first place Jaguars, Duval. Thanks for watching.